Welcome to Uncloaked Illusions. I'm Chris Anthony, and I'm coming to you with vital information. The Chinese, they've announced that in about 2 months, they're going to be launching their Petro Yuan. Mind you, this is very significant, and you have to understand maybe a little history of the petrodollar in order to decipher the significance of the Chinese stepping on the world stage. This is vital. Now, the petrodollar is something that came into existence, I believe, in the 70s. And this was a deal between Saudi Arabia and the United States. And Saudi Arabia would price all of its oil in the dollar, and the United States would get richer. Saudi Arabia will also get richer and enrich its country and build infrastructure. And the United States also would build infrastructure and get richer and richer. Well, this has kind of put a great deal of countries into the dark, and they would have to purchase dollars in order to buy oil or do trade with other countries. Well, with the Yuan doing its own petrol system, this is going to be the rivalry for the United States. And when countries realize what's going on, as they already know what's going on, it's just the American people being legions of brainwashed, narcissistic idiots that they don't get what's going on. Now, when other countries, and they are doing it, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, Iran, Saudi Arabia, King Salman's making these backdoor deals with Russia and China, and Qatar, Africa, China is in Africa, and it's building roads, it's building infrastructure, it's modernizing Africa. And up until a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when the bombing happened, or they would call it a ambush, happened in Africa with the United States troops, you didn't even know we were there. We are not supposed to be there. And all of a sudden, everywhere the United States goes, it seems like ISIS follows. Food for thought. Now, China is getting into these deals with other countries because it's only interested in bringing infrastructure. It's only interested in modernizing other countries and helping other countries come out of this poverty-stricken state that they're in. Also, a little FYI, China has a economy and a population that's at least 3 times larger than the United States. And they were able to pull 700 million people out of poverty. And the United States, on the other hand, we have like 90 million or 90 million plus people that are not in the work system. 40 million getting food stamps, I believe. And then they're pretty much fucking you over with your Social Security and your retirement and everything of that nature, your 401k. Most people don't even, especially the millennials, know what the hell a 401k is. Now, segueing from that to the AIIB, which is the Asian International Infrastructure Bank. Now, this is something that was put into motion years ago as well, and it's all kind of been hinting toward this is what China's goal was. And it's going according to plan, which is why you see the saber rattling going on in the South China Seas and, everything of that nature, because the United States does not want this country to have an economic crash without having someone to blame it on. Now, when Iran Now, when Iran's sanctions were removed a couple years ago, they started to sell oil, and it's an oil-rich country. This is why the United States is so desperate to get in there, and they want to demonize all these countries that don't want to get on to the peg of the dollar. And Iran made a very, very striking and obvious announcement when it said that it did not want to accept any dollars for its oil, and it would only accept the euro. And, of course, I believe the ruble and the yuan as well. Now, think of Libya, think of Iraq with Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. These African leaders, they were ready to put their money on I believe a gold-backed dinar. And this would make it easier for them to do trading within their own country and to basically sell their resources and reap the benefits of it. Now, the United States did not like this because this means that this will be one less country depending on the dollar. And all of a sudden, Muammar and Saddam Hussein, they were like the people that were keeping peace from happening. They were slaughtering their own people, using chemical weaponry, all of this bullshit. And then you saw the same thing happen in Syria with the president there. I forget his name at this moment. I forget his name. It'll come back to me. He was supposedly bombing his people because there was a pipeline deal that they wanted to go through Syria, and the leader there, he didn't agree to this, and he wanted to continue to have this pipeline out of his country because it would be bypassing Russia, and Europe would no longer need Russia. And I know I'm having a moment because I'm literally trying to think of this leader's name, and it normally doesn't leave me, but it'll come to me at some point in the video, I suppose. Now, this is why you saw this this coup go on in Ukraine, and we basically fell for the ploy that Vladimir Putin, he did the coup in this country, and he's holding the country hostage and all of that, when that was all United States based. This is something that you see happen in countries that ultimately refuse to follow the orders of the United States and stay attached to the dollar. Now, the significance also coming from this announcement is the yuan. The yuan, as the ruble has been as well. They've been backing their currency with gold. That's significant because that means that they will never allow their currencies to hyperinflate. They will never allow their currencies to be printed out of existence, in a sense, because whatever amount of gold they have is what the currency is going to be worth, in a sense. And the United States, thus the reason they removed the gold from the dollar in like 70, 73 or something like that. And that's why you have the Federal Reserve going completely fucking lunatic by printing all this money. And the more money they print, the less the dollar's worth. It makes sense of why your grocery bill probably goes up seemingly every month on month. And the taxes are constantly being risen for reasons that they can never explain to you. Now, I'm going to keep it short and only on this particular topic because it's very, very important. Now, also, a lot of countries are they're tired of the United States hubris and its arrogance. And the United States only offers death and destruction. That's what we're over there in Africa doing right now. We're causing death and destruction. And we have the Chinese over there trying to bring this country to the 21st century, trying to give it infrastructure, trying to give it roads, trying to give it a sewage system that's going to work. And we're over there trying to cause more and more chaos to give us even more reason to be there, I believe, to stifle the Chinese from bringing this country to a modern day state, pretty much. We also, the IMF, if you know, the International Monetary Fund, it accepted the Chinese yuan in its basket of currencies, I believe, in 2016 in October. But it was announced in 2015. And that is when I started to post articles on my blog concerning this, because I was looking at that like, okay, something's happening. Something significant is about to happen. And this is just the premiere. This is just to get you ready for what's coming. And think about I believe it, The Economist magazine. Now, these elitists are hubris as well, and they love to show you what's going to happen, and they use a lot of symbolism. Now, I know on the cover of that 2018 Economist magazine, there is the ashes of the dollar, and there's a phoenix rising from the ashes with a gold coin on its wrapped around its neck, and that just kind of gives you a hint that they were orchestrating all of this to pretty much happen by 2018, which is why you see the constant false flag attacks. You see all of these terrorist attack happening at this point, because they need to get something going. They need to be able to blame the economy not coming out of this coma on something. And usually when, as they say, when there's nothing else that they can do, they bring you to war. And they're literally pushing for it at this point. Like, I really won't speak on the entire Donald Trump situation with North Korea. But mind you, he's gone through bankruptcies. He's gone through them and he's come out of them. He knows what this country needs. He knows also what's about to happen. So while you are paying attention to your Kim Kardashian and worrying about what's going on in these amoral fucking celebrities' lives, who could care less about any of you, the only thing they care about is the money that you put into their bank accounts. It's time to wake up. There's a major shift going on in this world right now. The power from the West is pretty much transitioning over to the East. And I hope that there's someone that can touch another person, that can touch another person, and it can just kind of like spread like wildfire of what's about to happen. Because you will need to be prepared for this paradigm shift. And I try not to entertain certain conspiracy theories, but then, I do have a tendency to, again, paralysis analysis, break things down. And I also I also have an affinity for words. And I know that a conspiracy is something that people conspire to do, and they just throw the theory with it, and they allowed, I believe in the 60s, for it to become something that could be utilized to make a person's story or claim uncredible. Or, I don't even know if that's a word, can discredit a person's story. Well, go right ahead. This is what's been going on. They've been pretty much, I wasn't gonna do that. They've been keeping you asleep and overly entertained, as I've mentioned before. In the Roman Empire, as it was falling, they were overly entertained. They were completely amoral and sexualized, and sex was like literally the only thing they worried about. And it was even more questionable that while their economy was falling apart, they were worried about whether angels were I believe feminine or masculine energy. And everything around them was crumbling. Their politicians was getting greedier and sicker and richer, and pretty much pillaging the country. And we have the same thing going on. So the past really does repeat itself when you don't heed it. And with that being said, follow me on Twitter when I do decide to get on there and post something, which is very rare. I don't like to really put every aspect of my life out there for people. I love my Fourth Amendment. You can also follow me on this channel. Is probably where you'll get more of a dialogue or a conversation or a perspective, commentary, analysis from me through this and my podcast, which I really want to just use my podcast as a means to do interviews with people. I'm getting some pretty interesting people lined up, so I think it's something to look forward to. I did an interview with Jamil Aziz Johnson, pretty famous chef in Seattle, and one of the men that I love most. That's my father. Love every aspect about him. Cannot express how lucky I am to have him as my dad, and me, his son, his only son. So you can tune into me through those memes. It's Uncloaked Illusion. I try to make everything pretty basic. And if you have any questions, please post, and I will get back with you. I am eager to have this conversation. I'm out.